Welcome everybody to another edition of WCW 1993 as we're on the road to Halloween Havoc here in TEW 2020 as we're in the TV taping before Havoc. So what'll happen here is we'll go over, every Saturday night up to Halloween Havoc, go over the final card for Havoc, and then next video will be Halloween Havoc. Of course, that probably meant like a decent chunk you've just clicked off, but hey, enjoy the build-up after all. But anyway, we're live, well, not live, but we're in the beautiful UCF Arena for the next couple of shows for this taping, so let's get rolling. As Ventura and Schiavone open up the show, putting over the big matches tonight, which include Bulldog versus Max Payne, and Dustin Rhodes teaming up with Sting to take on the Iron Horsemen of Barry Windham and Arn Anderson. Then we have our opening match, where in a decent match, Jack Rougeau defeated Brian Armstrong in 9:24 by submission, with a Quebec grab after blatantly cheating, so this gets a 66, Rougeau gets a 63, Armstrong gets a 59, solid match, Rougeau whacks Brad with the, flag, with the flagpole, while the ref is, sort of out of sorts, and locks in the quick grab and gets the victory. Good opener, actually a really good match. And then afterwards, Rougeau celebrates to a 59. Then after that, next up, we've got, in a bout that had detract from the crowd, but to Power Wrestling, Johnny B. Bad defeats Terry Taylor in 9:49 by pinfall. The Wild Thing. This gets a 52, Bad gets a 47, Taylor gets a 48, back and forth match, but Bad gets the big win, and unfortunately they didn't click. And then Bad cuts a promo calling out Regal again, says Regal was talking about, I'm not cultured enough to have a chance at US champion. Well, I'm an American, and if you're in for a bad time if you don't give me that title shot, Regal. So just give me the title shot and be a man and face me in the ring. So 56 for a really solid promo as we continue that storyline to building up possibly that match. And then we have a big Flair and Steamboat promo. So basically what happens here is Flair and Steamboat come up, they go over the, glorious history, this is, this first time they've held tag team gold together. Of course, they've been very, successful in singles and tag runs together, but they're two of the greatest wrestlers ever, and they'll be proud to defend these tag titles, and more importantly, they're happy to hit the Iron Horseman where it hurts, for it's like, woo, you think it's easy to hold on to belts? I've been let's just say 10-time champion, because I don't know what his number was at this point. 10-time champion, guys. That means I lose him 10 times. That means I was back on the top 10 times. Woo! Then Eaton and Benoit people all come out, and as the Undertaker sort of, put the fact that, Benoit has been successful in the tag ranks, and they have a big match versus Ron Simmons and Two Gold Scorpio tonight, and they basically say that, that if they win, they deserve the first shot at the tag titles. Flair and Steamboat are like fine, and Eden's put over their history to together. Me and Flair have had wars, and so me and you Steamboat, and yeah, and Flair's like, yeah, but you've got a young whippersnapper with you, no Stan Lane, no Jimmy Cornette, just you and Benoit, and Eden's like, that's enough. 66, solid promo. Unfortunately, Eden Benoit on the mic, but hopefully it wasn't that bad. Then we have an extremely short match. Road Warrior Hawk defeated the Gambler in 4:43 by pinfall, a flying clothesline, just a complete squash. Gambler dies for our sins, as Hawk gets a 68, Gambler gets a 33. Then Hawk gets a kind of promo saying basically, pukes like Rude complain about not having competition. Well, they're not ready to get in the ring with me. So nut up or shut up, even though I know Sherry, Sherry knows a whole lot about being nutty if you get me right. And anyone knows. And, finishes with, oh, what a rush, Rude. If you want to rush Rude, get in the ring with me, buddy. And this gets a 66, solid promo. Then we have, go back to commercial and come back with something big, real big. So, basically, Cactus Jack, basically this is, the official contract signing as sort of, he's not ready, but, random WCW official puts over the fact that, in order to get this match, after what happened at Clash of the Champions, at Clash of the Champions, Cactus is waiving any responsibility to WCW over what happens in this ring. And Cactus Jack means like, you're right, I did this because a decade into my career, I'm already broken down. I already feel this pain every single morning. Already feel the pain every single morning when I get up. My knees are already creaky. My back is already a jumbled mess of bones. So this is my last real shot to get to the top of the mountain to finish what I wanted to do way back when I saw Jimmy Snuka fly off a cage in Long Island. Because if this fails, I'll be broken. I may even be able to share. But I'm sure I'm going to do everything I can to defeat you, Vader. Because, Vader, you faced more talented men than me. You faced more scarier men than me. But you never faced anybody like me who won't give up. And Vader just sort of responds, I don't care about your story. I don't care about your dreams. I am the nightmare. I fear no man. Because at Havoc, it's still going to be Vader time. And again, both men sign sort of the contract, and there's not quite a brawl, but there's a big old stare down, and this gets a 78. Solid stuff. Then we had about that had great heat and decent wrestling. The British Bulldog defeats Max Payne in 7:51 by pinfall Raw Ring Power Slam. Remember, Payne and Samoan Savage attacked Bulldog after his match last week to set this up, because of course they've been sort of Sid's running buddies, and this gets a 71. Bulldog gets a 68. Payne gets a 57. Unfortunately, they didn't click, but still solid stuff. And then afterwards, Sid. So basically, Bulldog is celebrating when Sid runs in and attacks him from behind, hitting the big boot, and sort of throwing him over the top rope, and he sort of holds his hands up in victory, doing Sid things. And this gets a 72. Then we have a quick Arn Windham promo. Getting really, unfortunately, nothing special here. Just putting over, Windham's still a world champion. Arn's still leading the greatest group of wrestlers that have ever been part of a Horseman. And tonight they're going to do what they do best, and that's take care of business inside of that squared circle. So then we move on. And then in a decent match, Eaton Benoit defeated Scorpio and Simmons in 14:20 when Benoit pinned Too Cold Scorpio, essentially using the rest for leverage. Basically, hits sort of like some move, hits the big flying headbutt, and then gets a pinfall victory after Eaton basically runs in and helps him get the win. Sort of shittery. This gets a 70. Benoit gets a 64. Eaton gets a 63. Too Cold Scorpio gets a 60, and Ron Simmons gets a 67. Then afterwards, Eaton and Benoit make title belt motions. Solid stuff again. And then we continue, as basically Missy Hyatt is trying to get a word with Sid Vicious, and he says, he's the master and ruler of the world, and Bulldog got in his way of that, so just like Sting, he's going to have to pay the price when I prove that I rule this company. 74, solid promo, as we move forward in that feud. And we can actually sort of add that match as well. And it is surely going to be a work rate classic. Sid and Bulldog. Then we go to our main event, which gets a 79, as it about that fantastic heat and great wrestling. Dustin Rhode and Sting defeated Barry Windham and Arn Anderson in 2008, when Rhodes pinned Barry Windham with a running Bulldog. This gets a 79. Arn gets a 79, Windham gets a 77, Sting gets an 86, Rhodes gets a 70. So again, back and forth, great match. I mean, look, all four of these guys can do their stuff in the ring. Windham gets a big move, hits a big lariat. Arn hits a spine buster. Come back, Sting sells. Rhodes gets Sting hits the big hot tag, House of Fire, but eventually, he's doing the sell job. Then at the end, it's a big, four-way brawl. Rhodes has Windham in the ring, hits him with a huge Bulldog, and gets a pinfall victory over the NWA champion. And this gets and the babyface is celebrating, and the show gets a 74, and overall, this show gets a 76. So, solid stuff, at least for the first show of the taping, sort of moves stuff forward, including, the Jack Vader world title feud, the sort of rising Windham Rhodes feud we've got going, and of course the Sid Bulldog feud, and setting something up between Hawk and Rude. But I'll be back in just a second with the second show of the taping. Alright, time for the second show of the taping, as Shivani and Ventura open the show again, putting over the big matches tonight, which is Ric Flair versus Bobby Eaton to hype up their tag title match next week, and of course in the main event, Cactus Jack and Davey Boy Smith teaming up to take on Sid and Vader, and what they push as what could be a pay-per-view quality main event. And this gets a 74 as we move forward. So in our opening match, in a bout of decent reaction from the crowd, but Power Wrestling, Van Hammer and JW Storm defeated Terry Taylor and Robbie V in 8:38 when Van Hammer pinned Robbie V with a slingshot suplex. Quasi-squash for Hammer and Storm as I continue to try to get them over. Storm gets a 53, Hammer gets a 37, Robbie V gets a 39, Terry Taylor on job duty gets a 56. And then Hammer and Storm play Eric Dar to a 37. Good stuff. Then we have a decent match. Kamala kills Marcus Bagwell in 6:59 by pinfall to Air Africa. This gets a 61. Kamala gets a 61. Bagwell gets a 45. Just, simple straight head squash. Bagwell gets a bit of a babyface fire, but at the end, Kamala is Kamala, and Marcus Bagwell is Marcus Bagwell. And then again, Kamala hits Marcus with the big splash afterwards. And I just realized something I really screwed up, so I'll be back in just a second. Alright. Sorry, just realized I double booked Marcus Bagwell in a match because I meant to put somebody else in a match. Anyway, but we go to the Flamingo Inn as it returns after a couple weeks hiatus, as Flamingo welcomes Longvini Vegas, who still has that TV title around, on a shoulder. Steven Regal, Regal and Vegas have a quick mutual admiration society over both being champions. And Regal says, he's upset by this garish display. He would never stay at an inn such as this, but at least he knows both of these men both of the both you, Scotty, and Vegas agree with him that a man like Johnny B. Bad is uniquely unqualified to face him for this belt. Out comes Bad, calls out Vegas for being a paper champion, getting lucky in the TV title tournament. He just sort of laughs at Flamingo, says you do better with a microphone than in the ring, buddy. But he sort of calls out Regal, says that he's scared of having Bad in the ring, and Regal's like, I'm not scared. The only thing I'm scared of what I would end up with on my fingers if I had to wrestle you. Look at your hair. Something, that's where Regal stuff. I originally didn't want to go this way, but Regal's really good at this, so why not go with the whole floppish stuff? And then, they go back and forth arguing. Regal continues to die, giving a title shot, and then Bad says, you just don't want to admit that I'm prettier than the queen. And that makes Regan Sapp says, how dare you insult our queen like that? Fine. You want me to take you apart in the ring in front of these cretins? Fine. At Halloween Havoc, I will give you a title shot, and you'll have to admit afterwards that I am the greatest wrestler in this company. So there we go. Sets that up for Havoc. As we now have a United States title match, officially, of Steven Regal versus Johnny B. Bad. And there we go. Oops, nope, that's United States champion. There we go. All right. And this itself gets a 69, which is a pretty solid promo. Then we have a decent match. The Barbarian defeated One Man Gang in 18 by pinfall, the Kick of Fear. So 61, just big man match. Gang tries to get his get a little bit of attack against Barbarian, but Barbarian's just that much better and hits the big old Kick of Fear and gets the pinfall victory. And then Barbarian and World celebrating afterward gets a 46. Good stuff. Then we have the match that I had to reset because, I put in Marty. I meant to, put in Marcus. I meant to put in Marty. So in a bout of good heat and decent wrestling, the Iron Horsemen of Arn Anderson, Steve Austin, and Brian Pillman defeated Shane Douglas, Marty Jennings, and Brian Armstrong in 10-13 when Austin pinned Jennings with the stun gun. This gets a 74. And just sort of a quasi-squash as Douglas, Jennings, and Armstrong are part of the mid-card. So, they get a bit of a shine, but at the end, it's Arn, Austin, and Pillman, and Austin is able to get the big win. Pillman gets a 77, Austin gets a 67, Arn gets an 80, Brian Armstrong gets a 58, Jenny gets a 56, and Douglas gets a 44. And then we move on to the next thing, which is a big old promo, as basically they put over the fact, that, Arn, he and Barry, that Dustin and Sting got lucky last week, but, unfortunately, the WCW Championship didn't see that way, so they're giving another Rhodes, a title shot for the NWA title, and Barry's, at the moment getting training for that match, but he's a horseman, so he's going to, and horsemen's always win when they're in the ring with Rhodes, as long as everything's on the level, so there's nothing to worry about that. But moving towards the future, Ric Flair's the tag team champion, but he's already been talking WCW officials, and Flair's been angling them, and he's ready to face Flair in the ring one more time and prove once again that without men like him backing up, Ric Flair was always a phony. And at Halloween Havoc, he'll be happy to defeat Ric Flair right in the middle of the ring one more time and prove the myth of who is really the backbone of the Horsemen. So there you go. Sets up two more matches officially. Even though, if you're paying attention, you should have been be able to tell over the last two videos that these matches were happening. Maybe not Flair or Arn, because I sort of moved Flair into the tag division for a couple weeks. But anyway, we'll book that. And yeah. But yeah. So basically, the answer is, Flair, Arn preserve the fact that, since Flair and Steamboat are defending their tag, and I'll just put over that since Flair and Steamboat are defending their tag titles next week, they don't need to defend the titles at Havoc, which will, allow them to, which will allow that Flair Arn match to happen. So there you go, 79, really good promo. Austin and Pillman are looking more over, and Arn Anderson is Arn Anderson, so there you go. Then we come back from commercial, and, Rick Rude comes out, basically says it's, he's insulted that somebody like Hawk, who, never did anything more than win some tag team matches, thinks he can face up against me, the rafting one, the man who stirs the drink in WCW, and who'd be at the top of the card if WCW officials weren't scared of what he would do, but he now has Sherry. He now has Sherry as his partner manager, and he's going to go right to the top, even if he has to take apart Hawk first. That leads Hawk to come out and says, let's talk man to man. Let's not deal with this woman. We both know that we're from the same places. We both we both were broken in up north. We bounce at the same bars on the same street route. So we know we're both tough SOBs, but I've always wanted to be a warrior. Well, you've been worried about what the women look at you, and rock sort of this a fake shimmy, But you gotta admit, even today, I've got a better body than you, Rude. Even if you do a little dance, and Rude comes back and says that's just insulting. I don't have to hide my body under spikes. I'm right here, and sort of really flashes his stomach. And Sherry tries to confront Hawk, and Hawk pushes her away, and that gives Rude just enough time to sort of wall up Hawk from behind and beat him down. And after, this gets a 70, and after we come back from commercial, it's officially announced that that's also going to be part of Halloween Havoc. So there you go. Rick Rude versus Road Warrior Hawk. And then, in a bout had fantastic in wrestling, Ric Flair defeated Bobby Eaton, 12:54. When basically Eaton was DQ'd when, basically as part of the setup, Benoit runs in and it's a 2-on-1, which gets an 82, Eaton gets a 65, Flair gets an 89 because he's great, and, Flair and Eaton are going back and forth, a solid tick under their great matches from the 80s, but, Flair is still really good and so is Eaton, but in the end, Benoit comes in and it's a 2-on-1 until Ricky Steamboat, makes a save, hitting the arm drags and even hitting a big, hitting a big dive onto Benoit on the outside of the ring to set up their tag title match for next week. And this gets a 74. Good stuff. And then in our main event, first we have a Dustin Rhode promo, which gets a 69. Basically, he puts over the fact, that the Rhodes and the Wyndhams, even if it's been under different names, have interacted with each other for years. Everybody knows about your Daddy Barry, Blackjack Mulligan was sure did a lot in this in this business. He fought with my father, he fought alongside my father, and just like that, I guess we're fighting too. And you fought my father too in the ring when you were a Horseman and other times. But it's time for a new generation to come apart. And the NWA title was something his father held, and it's a dream for him to hold it as well. And that's why at Havoc, I'm going to take that belt off of you, Barry. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of the ring. 69, solid promo. And now we're on to the main event, which also gets a 79, and unfortunately Cactus and Bulldog have no chemistry as partners, so that's unfortunate. But this, basically Cactus Jack and Bulldog draw with Sid and Vader in 15-10 following a double countout, so basically, this is just a wild brawl, because look at these guys. These guys are not doing a Southern-style tag match. This is just everybody gets in, so everybody fights, everybody continues to fight, and again, everything just descends into chaos, as you'd expect. And then finally, the show ends with a brawl between all four men, and there you go. This gets a 76, and the show itself gets a 78. Good stuff. Again, time for the last go-home show in just a moment here, so I'll be back with that in just a moment. So it's now the final show of the taping, as basically the show starts off, and basically the announcers throw it right to the ring, where they say that, basically Flair and Steamboat called out Eaton and Benoit for their match right at the start of the show. So they're already in the ring, and the match is already going on. So it's just quick little 1 minute segment, which really would probably be 30 seconds, gets a 74. And then in the actual match, which gets an 82, Jesus, in a superb match, Eaton and Benoit defeated Flair and Steamboat in 14:57 when Chris Benoit pinned Ricky Steamboat with a diving headbutt following interference from wait for it, Steve Austin. So Eaton and Benoit win the world tag titles. So this gets an 82, Benoit gets a 66, Eaton gets a 67, Flair gets a 91, Steamboat gets an 84. Of course, the Horsemen get involved and, sort of give the tag titles over to Eaton Benoit. Honestly, I just needed a way to get the tag titles away from the Blondes, because I knew they would be stuck in this whole feud with the top baby faces, and I didn't want the tag titles with it, but I also didn't want to have them lose. I wanted the Blondes losing tag titles to be a big deal, and them losing it to say Simmons Too Cold wouldn't be as big deal as losing to Flair and Steamboat, and so I did this to sort of move things all over, and now the tag titles are back, honestly, where they belong, in the mid card. But 82, really good match. And then we got the post match where basically a Horseman beatdown. It's 3-on-1, 3-on-2 as Flair and Steamboat try to attack, but Sting makes a huge save and to a big pop, gets them to scatter, and this gets an 82. Then we have in a decent match, Samoan Savage defeats Brad Armstrong in a 26-5 pinfall with Samoan drop. This gets a 56. Savage gets a 53. Armstrong gets a 60. Honestly, I just had extra time on the show, so figured I'd give Samoan Savage a quick win. And then Simone Savage celebrates, which gets a 53. So again, straightforward, builds them up a little bit, so honestly, you can do jobs later. Then we have a backstage promo with the British Bulldog, who's getting a little nastier, and he's a little more aggressive with Missy Hyatt and sort of snapping at her that he'll do whatever he needs to prove that nobody rules the world, but I, British Bulldog, I'm a former world champion. I'll get back to the top. If I have to get through Sid to do it, so be it. You try to powerbomb me, you won't be able to do it. And so it's sort of setting that up, Bulldog and Sid. Again, a battle of the insert steroid-related medicine here. And this gets an 82, so good stuff. Really good promo. Not as good as I thought. And then in a decent match, the Powers of Pain defeated Vinny Vegas and Scott Flamingo in 10:56 when Barbarian pinned Saudi Flamingo with a kick of fear after Johnny B. Bad came down and distracted Flamingo, allowing Barbarian to kick him in the mush. And this gets a 50, Worley gets a 53, Barbarian gets a 56, Scotty Flamingo gets a 49, and Vinny Vegas gets a 56. And then in the post-match, Power Pain celebrating, which gets a 52. So then we move forward, where it's basically a backstage promo. We got Sting, we got Steamboat, we got Flair, sort of the triumvirate of the top of the WCW, and Flair puts over, Arn, you keep on saying you were holding the Horsemen together. Arn, I didn't see you wrestling 60-minute matches every single night. Arn, I didn't see you going all over the world to the title. Yes, I party. Yes, you helped me hold the title sometimes, but I did that work in the ring. And Havoc, Arn, I'm going to prove to you that you were always a second banana. Whoa! And then Sting was basically do a promo saying, they're officially challenging Hollywood Blondes for Halloween Havoc, and, they're going to prove to them that, that they're in over their head in WCW, and Wyndham and Arm are feeding them lies about, whether they can rise to the top quite yet. So we'll also officially make that match. Which is actually a really, Sting and Ricky Steamboat versus Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. As we just continue to have a absolutely packed Halloween Havoc. Really good promo, especially for it being 4 minutes, so this gets an 85. And then in about that good heat in East Wrestling, Barry Windham basically wins a squash, defeating Shane Douglas in 7:44 by pinfall lariat, and this gets a 57. Windham gets a 78. Douglas gets a 47. Then he takes the mic and cuts a promo saying, Rhodes, I whooped your daddy. I whooped you before, and after Havoc, I'm still going to be the NWA World Champion, because this is my legacy. This is what I deserve after being left in the dirt for so many years. I'm back in WCW. I'm a true member of the Horsemen once again, and I'm going to hold this title for as long as I want. 72, solid stuff. And then we move backstage where the Iron Horsemen respond. This gets a 76. Basically, Arn says, accept this, Flair, that in just a couple days, I'm going to prove to you that you always needed me, you always needed somebody, and you are always nothing more than that kid from Minneapolis who wanted to pretend we were cousins. And then we continue, and, Blonde's kicking and says they're going to break the myth of Sting and Steamboat all in one night. Because they're the greatest tag team in professional wrestling, so roll the credits. 76, solid stuff. Then we have the official tag title match announced for the pay-per-view. As, they say that the WCW Championship Committee has been hard at work. And they said it's going to be Barbarian and the Warlord, the Powers of Pain, getting the tag title shot against Eden and Benoit. So there we go. Then, in a bout that had great heat and good wrestling, Johnny B. Bad and Roadrunner Hawk defeated Rick Rude and Steven Regal in 12:37 when Bad pinned Regal with a quick roll-up. Regal gets a 65, Rude gets an 83, Hawk gets a 70, Bad gets a 58. So again, back and forth for a storytelling match. But in the end, Bad is able to get a victory roll type of move in on Regal and get the big 3 count on the United States Champion, while Rude and Hawk are brawling. And then Bad celebrates and makes title belts motions at Regal as they face off. And this gets a 65. And then we have a big old Dustin promo, but out comes Dusty Rhodes with him. And basically, Dusty cuts in, and I'm not going to try to do the Dusty voice, because come on now. He says, Blackjack, Ottawa, Florida, we fought, we brawled, we bled. But this isn't about me and Blackjack Daddy. It's about my son and you, Wyndham. You're right. You whooped my butt, I whooped yours. We teamed up, we fought. But now I see you always a walk behind because you walk behind once again and think just because my son is young and not quite experienced in this business, you can fool him and you can keep that title. Well, my son is all the natural talent in the world. More importantly, he doesn't have my baggage. He doesn't have these rolls of fat. He's built like an athlete. Because, so what Halloween Havoc, what's going to happen is he's going to become the NWA World Champion just like me. And the Rhodes family will be celebrating after Havoc Baby all night long. And we're going to be going funky like a monkey. 77th solid promo, there you go. And, yeah. Then in our main event, ouch. This hurts. Okay. So my both had great team, good wrestling. Cactus Jack defeated Kamala in 946 by pinfall with a double arm DDT. This gets a 79. Kamala gets a 62. Yeah, this should have been our main event, but I screwed things up. So that's going to sort of kill the show. But in the end, just back and forth brawl, but Cactus gets the big win over Kamala. But then Vader attacks him. Like, Vader just squashes him in the corner with a couple of big Vader attacks in the corner, big avalanches, hits a big slam, and then hits 2 Vader bombs just, quote-unquote, 24 hours before Halloween Havoc. And this gets a 75. And we finish things out. And so this gets a 63. Yeah. That last bit really sucked. I should have known better that, of course, you don't set up a wild brawl for the main event, but, crap happens. Hopefully TBS won't be mad at us for that last show. I think we'll be okay, though. Hopefully. So, let's just see here. Email-wise, Dustin Rhode, Steven Regal is clumsy. Okay. Ravi is poor ring psychology. He was Raw Van Dam in 1903, so yes. Martel relocates. Okay. We have had their big shows. Mr. Perfect defeated Hulk Hogan. Sasha defeated Rick Martel. Randy Savage defeated Jerry Lawler. $1 Million Man and Razor defeated The Power Connection, which is Ray Taylor and Jim Duggan. Okay, Big Boss Man. Undertaker defeated Bret Hart. And yeah, Steiner Brothers defeated Liquid and Twisted Cloud to retain the tag titles. Alrighty then. So yeah, that's actually it for the moment. At least for this, because next up is Halloween Havoc. But again, let's go over everything as far as our storylines, and of course, one last sell job for this. So we got sort of like our mid-card / tag title feud. This is at a 52. The Wyndham Words feud is at a 76. The tag title feud, which wasn't over the tag titles anymore, it's more like the Horseman feud, is at an 80. The US title feud, which is more the US title feud plus Rude and Hawk, is at a 61. The Sid Bulldog feud is at a 79, and the World Title storyline is at a 76. So again, to go over everything. Main event, Cactus Jack versus Vader. Can Cactus Jack survive another insane match versus Vader and pull off a miracle and become world champion? I guess we'll have to watch to see. Or will this be the end of Cactus Jack? Can Dustin Rhodes do what his father did and become NWA World Champion? Again, we'll have to see, as Barry Windham, of course, has been a very successful NWA World Champion. And a huge match. In a rematch from a couple months back where Arn Anderson got a huge win over Ric Flair, it's them fighting one more time as the legacy of the Horsemen is at stake. In a battle of 2 big powerful men, Sid Vicious will take on British Bulldog, and we'll see who rises up the card. In a match for the US title, Steve Regal faces Johnny B. Bad. In a huge tag team match, Halloween Blondes take on Sting and Ricky Steamboat in one of the biggest matches of their lives. Of course, they just placed Flair and Steamboat, so, they keep on having big matches in their lives. In a battle of 2 tough SOBs, Rick Rude faces Robert Hawk. And for the tag titles, Eden Benoit defends against the Powers of Pain. So yeah, that's it. That's everything that's scheduled. Depending on how much time is left, there might be a couple bonus matches, but that's WCW for you. But again, I hope you enjoyed this. Next show will be Halloween Havoc. But that's it for now. So if you enjoyed this, go give it a like. Comment when you're enjoying and not enjoying. Subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including this, my MLW series now in 2005, my WCW 2001 series now late in 2003 as we head towards Starrcade 2003, including Mayhem 2003, and of course Cornellverse weekends, which includes, the East Coast Wars in Cornellverse 1997 and TCW 2016 in TW 2020. But that's it for now, so check later, and adios.